Hey, welcome back to Sovereign Nation. I'm Michelle Malkin. Gavin Wax is a populist Republican and president of the New York Young Republican Club. He joins me now. Hey, Gavin, thanks for joining us here on Sovereign Nation.
So it was my pleasure, Michelle. Thank you for having me.
You bet. So we're talking about the Reddit revolt, and I knew I had to have you on. This is right up your alley. Turns out that you are going to be having something of an event, a protest in Zuccotti Park, which of course has a lot of symbolic significance as a place that was supposed to be ground zero for the Occupy Wall Street movement. And it appears that a bunch of Generation Z day traders in their home basements did more to Occupy Wall Street than that original movement. What are you going to be doing this weekend?
Well, isn't that the beautiful irony of this all, that a few day traders on Reddit did more to dent the system and stick it to the man, quote unquote, than these LARPing revolutionaries ever have. But we're going to make our voices be heard down in Zuccotti Park, taking advantage of all the symbolism, just to kind of poke a little extra fun at the left. But basically, we want to keep the press on this issue. We want to keep the attention on it. This was such a blatant form of market rigging and hypocrisy and double standards that exist in our system, whether we want to admit it or not, that millions of people are getting woken up to what's really happening, that, you know, these fat cats on Wall Street can make rules for themselves and separate rules for us, and then they're allowed to make money, they're allowed to perpetuate institutional wealth. But if the little guy, the retail investor wants to play at the big boy table, that they're called the market manipulators and they're shut down, and they have to shut down the whole market for trading on some of these assets. So we're going to protest, we're going to let our voices be heard, and we're going to hopefully continue to keep up the pressure on big finance just as much as we need to do on big tech and all these other corporatist entities.
Well, that kind of activism, that grassroots activism, is something that's been missing in the movement of the establishment GOP or the controlled GOP. So it's, to me personally, it's very heartening to see the kind of organizing that you're doing. And really what this entire episode this week has done is carry out a theme that so many ordinary Americans are really beginning to grasp, and that is that there's one set of rules for the overlords and another set for the rest of us, whether it's COVID or when it comes to the handling of Antifa and BLM, and now in the marketplace of ideas, and of course certainly with free speech as well. So, you know, you've been involved as part of a new leader of the populist Republican movement, and we're seeing more of the cleavages there as well. What is your take on, you know, where elected officials and prominent conservatives stand here? Some who are continuing to ply the myth of a quote-unquote free market and go after these small citizen investors who are basically exercising their ability to crowdsource and disrupt the financial markets.
No, this is such a red meat issue that you would think if our political elites had any brains, they would all jump on and realize that it's such a unifying issue that so many people can get around, because it's just blatant corruption and it's just a blatant double standards. But they seem to be, you know, running cover for the hedge funds, running cover for Wall Street, and trying to vilify the little guy, in this case, the Reddit investor. So it's ridiculous. And as you said, they're going to, at least on the right wing, or whatever, if you can even call them right wing, they're going to use the mantle of the free market to attack them, which is ridiculous, because what they did was exercise their free market rights. A short squeeze is a legitimate market reaction to overshorting a stock. It's a self-regulating aspect of the market. It should be understood as such. And if you're going to engage in such, you know, ridiculous shorting of a company, it's a risky bet, and you need to face the consequences. What the right seems to want, this corporatist establishment right, is that they want to privatize the gains and socialize the losses. We saw that back in the original financial crisis about a decade ago. And, you know, who has to foot the bill? It's the taxpayers. And in this case, it's the day traders on Reddit who had their ability to freely trade restricted. So it's absolutely ridiculous. And then you have the hypocrites on the left. You obviously have the corporatist left, which is no different than the corporatist right, but you also have this fake populist left people like Warren and AOC who just go on racial diatribes when they have this really crucial red meat issue in front of them, and they don't seem to be really understanding it. Warren put out this statement basically vilifying the Reddit day traders for their market manipulations and the fluctuations in the price. Who cares about the fluctuations in the price? That's the market, and the price of the asset is whatever the market determines it to be. So, I mean, both sides of the establishment or controlled opposition are just getting it all wrong, and it seems like only the right-wing populists are hitting the nail on the head on this issue.
Yeah, and then you've got these people outside of the political sphere who've been weighing in, and new faces to a lot of people, Dave Portnoy and Barstool Sports, and of course Elon Musk coming out in favor of all of this. What does this bode for the future of 2024 for one thing? And then what do you think, especially since you mentioned AOC, of Ted Cruz trying to make amends with AOC, look like they're on the same side, and then be totally spanked by AOC, who goes on her hysterical diatribe about how Ted Cruz wanted to have her killed?
Look, I give Cruz props for trying. I mean, I've tried in personal capacity to reach out to members of the populist left to find common ground, but a lot of them are very dense. They just like to talk about semantics and, the Marxian dialectics, and they're not actually interested in moving the needle in a real pragmatic way. And they're just too caught up in wokeism and racial politics that they can't see some common ground that we may have on some economic issues. And as far as Elon Musk and Portnoy, I mean, it's fantastic that they're both red-pilled. We need to have footholds in the popular culture, and both of them are massive figures in that regard. In fact, I'm seeing many normie friends of mine who generally don't follow politics. They're jumping on the bandwagon. And I would even argue that most of the Reddit day traders were very apolitical. They were just looking to make a buck, and they've been red-pilled by all of this. So all these these aggressive actions by the establishment is really helping us.
Absolutely. It's a welcome disruption in a very disruptive year so far. Good luck with the protest, Gavin Wax, and we appreciate all you do. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Michelle.
You bet. We got to take a quick break, and when we come back, Breitbart senior tech reporter Alan Bakari will weigh in on big tech and Wall Street